My brother fired me from the bakery I had spent 12 years building, then smiled as he held up the new keys and said, "You should have remembered who actually owns this place." What Ryan didn't know was that he owned nothing except the walls. I discovered the new locks at 4:47 on a Monday morning. For 12 years, I had arrived before sunrise to prepare the dough, check the overnight orders and start the first trays of cinnamon rolls before the rest of the town woke up. That morning, I stood outside Carter's family bakery with 2 bags of flour in my arms, staring at a silver lock I had never seen before. At first, I assumed the old one had broken. Then I noticed the white envelope taped to the glass door. My name, Emma, was written across it in Ryan's handwriting. Inside was a 1-page termination letter. No warning, no conversation, just 3 short paragraphs informing me that my services were no longer required and that I was forbidden from entering the bakery without Ryan's permission. I read it twice before the lights came on inside. Ryan appeared behind the counter wearing a new black apron with the bakery logo embroidered across the chest. Beside him stood his fiancée, Vanessa, holding a tablet and looking around the shop as though she had already decided what she planned to throw away. Ryan unlocked the door but kept his body in the entrance. "You weren't supposed to come this early," he said. "I come this early every day. Not anymore." Behind him, 3 employees had gathered near the kitchen entrance. None of them looked at me. Vanessa folded her arms. "We're taking the business in a more professional direction." I almost laughed. Vanessa had worked in the bakery for 6 afternoons. She had never prepared a batch of dough, handled a holiday rush, or stayed overnight when the old oven stopped working before Christmas. Yet she spoke as though I were the inexperienced one. Ryan handed me a cardboard box containing my apron, 2 framed photographs, and the blue notebook I used for supplier contacts. "You can collect anything else later," he said, supervised. I looked past him at the shop our grandmother had opened 34 years earlier. The cream-coloured walls had been my idea. So were the wooden shelves, the gold packaging, the online ordering station, and the display case now filled with pastries made from recipes I had spent years perfecting. When Grandma became too ill to work, I kept the bakery alive. Ryan visited twice a month and called himself the owner. "You're really doing this in front of everyone?" I asked. His expression hardened. "Don't make this dramatic, Emma. The building was left to me. You were allowed to work here, and you've acted like that made you important." Vanessa gave me a sympathetic smile that somehow felt more insulting than Ryan's anger. "We'll be modernizing the recipes too," she said. "People want healthier options now." I tightened my grip around the box. Ryan leaned closer and lowered his voice. "You've spent your whole life hiding behind this bakery. Maybe losing it will finally force you to build something of your own." He closed the door before I could answer. The lock clicked between us. I stood on the pavement until the first drops of rain landed on the cardboard box. Through the window, I watched Vanessa remove Grandma's handwritten menu from the wall. For 12 years, I had believed the bakery was our family legacy. That morning, Ryan made it clear that he believed it was his property. So I walked to my car, placed the box on the passenger seat, and called the attorney who had handled Grandma's estate. "I need you to confirm something," I said when he answered. There was a pause as he opened the file. Then he read the documents aloud. The building belonged to Ryan. But the bakery's name, trademark, website, online store, packaging designs, customer database, and every original recipe Grandma had legally protected belonged entirely to me. Ryan had locked me out of his building. He had no idea he had also locked himself out of my business. 3 days after Ryan locked me out, Vanessa announced the bakery's grand reopening on social media. She posted a photograph of herself standing behind the counter in a spotless white apron, holding a tray of pale, uneven cupcakes. Above her head was the caption, "A new era for Carter's Family Bakery." I stared at the post from my apartment and felt something inside me go strangely quiet. They had kept the name. They had kept the logo I designed. They had even copied the gold packaging I created 6 years earlier. Ryan believed owning the building gave him the right to use everything inside it. My attorney disagreed. That afternoon, he sent Ryan a formal notice explaining that the Carter's Family Bakery name, trademark, website, packaging designs, online ordering system, and protected recipes were registered under my name. Ryan called me 11 minutes later. "What have you done?" he demanded. "I haven't done anything. The website is gone. I removed my website from your business. Our delivery accounts are suspended. They were registered under my company information. You're trying to destroy us." I looked out the window and watched rain slide down the glass. "No, Ryan. I'm simply no longer allowing you to use what belongs to me." He was silent for a moment. Then Vanessa's voice came through the phone in the background. "Tell her we'll sue." Ryan repeated the threat. I told him to speak to my attorney and ended the call. By Friday, the bakery's problems had grown. Their packaging supplier refused to print more boxes because Ryan could not prove he owned the trademark. The local grocery store cancelled its weekend order after learning the branded products might create a legal dispute. Then, the customer complaints began. The cinnamon rolls were dry. The chocolate cake tasted different. The fruit did contain. Arts collapsed before lunchtime. Ryan had access to Grandma's old recipe book, but those recipes were only starting points. Over the years, I had changed measurements, temperatures, fillings, and techniques. I kept the final versions in a locked digital archive Ryan had never bothered to ask about. On Saturday morning, my phone began filling with messages from long-time customers. "Are you still baking? Where can we order your cinnamon rolls? Please tell me the bakery isn't changing permanently." I answered none of them immediately. Instead, I drove past the shop. A banner reading, "Grand Reopening," hung above the entrance, but the bakery was nearly empty. Through the window, I saw Ryan arguing with a customer while Vanessa stood behind the counter staring at her phone. For the first time, Ryan looked frightened. That evening, he came to my apartment. He didn't apologize. He didn't admit he had been wrong. He simply stood outside my door and said, "Come back Monday. We'll pretend none of this happened." I looked at the brother who had humiliated me in front of my staff and locked me out before sunrise. Then I gave him the same answer he had given me. "Not anymore." And I closed the door. By Sunday afternoon, Ryan had called me 9 times. I ignored every call. Then my Aunt Linda sent a message. "Your brother is under a lot of pressure. We're having a family meeting tonight. You need to be there." I almost deleted it. Instead, I drove to my mother's house at 7. Ryan was already sitting at the dining table with Vanessa beside him. Aunt Linda, my mother, and 2 cousins had also been invited. From the way everyone avoided looking at me, I knew Ryan had spoken first. "You're punishing the whole family over one argument," Aunt Linda said, before I had even taken off my coat. "It wasn't an argument," I replied. "Ryan fired me." Ryan leaned forward. "I offered to let you come back. You offered to pretend it never happened." Vanessa sighed dramatically. "The bakery is losing money every day because Emma refuses to cooperate." I placed my attorney's letter on the table. "The bakery is losing money because you fired the person who operated it." My mother quietly picked up the document and began reading. Ryan stood. "This is Grandma's bakery," he said. "It belongs to the family. The building belongs to you," I replied. "The business assets belong to me." Aunt Linda shook her head. "Legal ownership isn't everything." "That's interesting," I said, "because legal ownership was everything when Ryan locked me outside." The room went silent. Ryan's face reddened. "You've always been jealous because Grandma trusted me with the property." I looked directly at him. "Grandma left you the building because you told her you would maintain it. She left me the business because I was the one maintaining it." Vanessa interrupted. "We can create new recipes and a new brand." "You should," I said calmly. She blinked. Ryan stared at me. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not coming back." Until that moment, I don't think he had believed I could actually walk away. He believed I would eventually feel guilty, return to the kitchen, repair the damage, and allow him to remain the public face of everything I had built. I opened my bag and placed a rental agreement on the table. I had signed it that morning. The new shop was smaller and located 15 minutes across town, but it had a commercial kitchen, a bright storefront, and enough space for 6 tables. "I'm reopening Carter's Family Bakery next month," I said. Ryan looked as though I had struck him. "You can't open another Carter's Bakery." "I'm not opening another one. I'm relocating the only one I legally own." Vanessa grabbed Ryan's arm. Aunt Linda began talking about loyalty, forgiveness, and Grandma's memory. Then my phone rang. It was Daniel, the bakery's head baker. I answered on speaker. "Emma," he said, "the entire morning staff has agreed. When your new shop opens, we're coming with you." Ryan slowly sat down. For the first time since he changed those locks, he understood the truth. He hadn't removed me from the family business. He had removed the business from himself. 3 weeks before my new bakery opened, Ryan removed Grandma's name from the old storefront. He replaced it with a black and white sign that read, "Vanessa's Modern Bake Shop." When Daniel sent me the photograph, I stared at it longer than I expected. For most of my life, Grandma's name had been painted above that door. It had survived winter storms, 2 renovations, 1 small kitchen fire, and every bad year the business had ever faced. Ryan erased it in a single afternoon. I thought it would break my heart. Instead, it freed me. The old building was no longer Grandma's bakery. It was simply Ryan's property, decorated according to Vanessa's taste. The legacy had already moved. It was inside the recipe archive on my laptop. It was in Daniel's hands as he prepared dough without needing instructions. It was in the memories of customers who knew exactly how Grandma's cinnamon rolls were supposed to smell on a cold morning. And it was coming with me. My new location needed work. The floors were scratched, the walls were painted an unpleasant shade of yellow, and one of the ovens made a rattling sound whenever it reached high heat. But every person who joined me treated the place as though it already mattered. Daniel repaired the oven with help from his brother. Maya, our former cashier, painted the menu boards. 2 long-time customers arrived one Saturday carrying brushes and asked whether they could help paint. I chose cream-coloured walls, wooden shelves, and dark green trim. The colour Grandma had once wanted for the original shop before Ryan complained that it looked old-fashioned. Above the counter, I hung her handwritten menu. Not a copy. The original. I had removed it from storage years earlier when the ink began fading. The one Vanessa took down had only been a reproduction. On opening morning, I arrived at 3:40 a.m. The street was dark and silent. For a few seconds I stood outside with the key in my hand, remembering the morning Ryan had locked me out. Then I unlocked my own door. Inside, the bakery smelled of fresh paint, flour, and the first batch of cinnamon dough rising in the kitchen. By 6, a line had formed outside. By 7, it stretched past the neighbouring bookstore. Some customers brought flowers. Others brought photographs of birthday cakes Grandma had made 20 or 30 years earlier. One elderly man placed a folded paper bag on the counter and told me it contained the first receipt his wife had saved from Carter's Family Bakery in 1994. At 8:30, we sold our last cinnamon roll. At 10, we had to stop accepting same-day cake orders. The online store received more orders in 6 hours than it had during our busiest weekend the previous year. I should have felt victorious. Mostly, I felt grateful. The customers had not followed a building. They had followed the work. Across town, Vanessa's Modern Bake Shop closed early that same day. I learned later that Ryan had reduced staff after most of the experienced employees resigned. Vanessa tried using pre-mixed dough from a commercial supplier, but long-time customers noticed immediately. Negative reviews appeared online, followed by photographs of collapsed cakes and underbaked pastries. Within 2 months, Vanessa stopped working at the shop entirely. She told Ryan running a bakery was more complicated than expected. A month after that, their engagement ended. I didn't celebrate either event. Ryan had made his choices. The consequences belonged to him. 6 months after my opening, he walked into my bakery 5 minutes before closing. The evening crowd had gone. Daniel was cleaning the kitchen, and I was counting the register when I saw Ryan standing near Grandma's rolling pin display. He looked thinner. His expensive jacket was wrinkled, and the confidence he usually wore like armor was gone. "I sold the building," he said. I closed the register drawer. The words hurt, but not in the way he expected. "Who bought it?" "A property developer. They're turning it into offices." For a moment I pictured the old kitchen being torn apart. The counter where Grandma taught me to shape bread. The storeroom where I once slept for 2 hours during a Christmas rush. The back step where she and I used to drink tea after closing. Then I looked around my new bakery. Her menu was above me. Her rolling pin was behind Ryan. Her recipes were being prepared in the kitchen. The old building had held our memories, but it had never owned them. "I'm sorry," Ryan said. I waited. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because I needed to know whether he was apologizing for losing the building or for what he had done to me. He lowered his eyes. "I thought because Grandma left me the property, she believed I was more important." I said nothing, and I thought, "I spent years trying to prove she had chosen me over you." "She didn't choose one of us over the other." "I know that now." He looked toward the kitchen as Daniel carried a tray to the cooling rack. "I honestly believed you would come back," Ryan continued. "I thought you needed the bakery more than it needed you." "That was your mistake." He nodded. "No, my mistake was knowing how much you did and pretending it didn't count. It was easier to call myself the owner than admit you were the reason the place survived." It was the first honest thing he had said to me in years. "I can't give you the building back," he said, "but I still have some money from the sale. I thought maybe I could invest here. We could be partners." There had been a time when I would have accepted immediately. Not because it was a good offer, but because part of me had always wanted my brother to choose me. That part of me no longer made business decisions. "I don't need an investor," I said. His face fell. "But I may need someone to manage deliveries during the holiday season." He looked up. "It would be a paid position," I continued. "You would report to Maya. You would have no ownership, no authority over staff, and no right to use the family name outside this business." Ryan gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "You want me to work for you?" "No, I'm giving you the opportunity to work with us. Whether you can handle the difference is up to you." He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. "I'll start wherever you need me." Ryan began the following Monday. He made mistakes. He complained twice. Maya sent him back to redeliver an order after he forgot one customer's birthday message, but he stayed. He arrived on time, carried boxes, cleaned trays, and slowly learned how much invisible work had always happened behind the counter. I did not forgive him all at once. Forgiveness was not a door that opened because someone finally knocked, but over time I stopped expecting every conversation to become a fight. On the bakery's first anniversary, Ryan came in before sunrise carrying a small wooden plaque. He placed it beneath Grandma's rolling pin before I could stop him. The plaque read, "The building was never the legacy, she was." Underneath, in smaller letters, he had added, "And Emma kept it alive." I read it twice. Ryan stood beside me, waiting, but he did not ask whether I forgave him. That was how I knew he had finally changed. At 7 that morning, the first customer opened the door. Warm air moved through the bakery, carrying the smell of cinnamon, coffee, and fresh bread onto the street. I looked around at the crowded tables, the green trim, Grandma's menu, and the people who had chosen to build something with me. Ryan had once locked me out because he believed owning the walls made him powerful. But walls had never mixed the dough. Walls had never remembered a customer's birthday. Walls had never worked through the night, protected a recipe, trained a team, or kept a promise. A building could be inherited. A title could be claimed, but a legacy had to be earned. And this one was finally mine.